Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. According to BoxingScene.com and also Michael Benson as well, reports are coming out that Canelo Álvarez and Gennady Golovkin is heading for a trilogy in May, according to Oscar De La Hoya as well. And now this is very interesting news because a trilogy, when everyone said that Danny Jacobs would be the front runner, and all of a sudden Oscar De La Hoya reveals that preliminary talks are now underway for Canelo Álvarez versus Gennady Golovkin trilogy fight to potentially take place in Las Vegas in May. And I find that really odd because Danny Jacobs is already on the zone. He's already there with Eddie Hearn. They already have that connection. Why not make that fight? These guys, looks like it was headed that way, and now that it's mentioned with Triple G, I'm starting to feel a little odd about that because something doesn't seem right. Now, let's break down the fight first. Canelo Álvarez, Triple G, Part 3. I see no change in what happened in the first two fights. I think that Canelo Álvarez is going to give Gennady Golovkin all kind of problems. I think it's going to be another close fight, and I think Canelo Álvarez is going to do better in this fight. You have to understand, when you face off a boxer and a puncher, the boxer tends to get better fight by fight by fight. And regardless of how you saw the two fights happening, Canelo Álvarez improved vastly from the first fight to the second fight. And so by the third fight, I think Canelo Álvarez will improve even another leap because Canelo Álvarez is a fighter in his prime who's improving, while Gennady Golovkin is a little bit older, has a little bit more wear and tear. And basically, he's not the boxer that Canelo Álvarez is. So this is an opening for Gennady Golovkin where I just don't feel like there's going to be any other outcome. At best, a draw. And at worst, just another loss to Canelo Álvarez. I feel like Canelo Álvarez most likely will just completely outbox Triple G at this point, just for the simple fact that, time is not on Gennady Golovkin's side. He's not a pure boxer. Boxers always fare better in rematches, and this is a trilogy. So then you would have to assume that Canelo Álvarez would be looking to dominate Triple G in this matchup. I understand that we didn't see that in the first two. It was a close fight, but I have to be unbiased and go based off skills and the skills in this particular fight. And I've actually seen improvement from Canelo Álvarez from the first fight to the second fight. I just don't think that Triple G can win a third fight against Canelo Álvarez. I just don't see it happening. I have to go with Canelo Álvarez. I think Canelo Álvarez wins much easier the third fight because Canelo Álvarez has been in the ring with Triple G twice. He knows what to expect, and he's just going to go in there and dictate the pace and outbox Triple G in this third fight. That's what I see. But the intriguing thing about all of this is what I believe is truly happening here. Now, this is just my theory on it, and normally I don't like to dig into my theories, but I'll give you guys this. When Triple G and Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Álvarez were negotiating for their fight last year, and these guys were having a hard time on percentage splits, and they couldn't come to an agreement. They couldn't reach an agreement. An interesting thing happened, and that interesting thing that happened is that they called up Danny Jacobs and they started contract negotiations, fight negotiations with Danny Jacobs and Eddie Hearn to get a fight done against Canelo Álvarez. And so I thought that was odd. Triple G, everyone wants to see the rematch. But why would they call it? Because it was a bluff. They were calling the bluff because they were trying to negotiate a better deal for Canelo Álvarez and Gennady Golovkin. So both sides were haggling as far as their promoters to try to get the deal done. And so I think this could possibly be what's going on. It could be legitimate, a trilogy. That is absolutely right. But a theory in the back of my mind is thinking that maybe they're trying to get a better deal for Danny Jacobs or Canelo Álvarez. Somebody's being unfair on the splits, and these guys are negotiating, saying, hey, we're willing to walk away from this fight. You need to take the deal that's offered. And I know at the time that Danny Jacobs was not interested in the Canelo fight for the amount that they were willing to pay him. He felt like it was a lowball offer. Triple G didn't know that. He came back to the table, and these guys ultimately worked out a deal for the rematch. So this could ultimately be what's going on, and it's just a theory. It's not proven. I have no evidence of this. It's just based on past history with Golden Boy and their negotiation practices. I've seen that, and so I'm also thinking that possibly maybe Danny Jacobs, this is a way to get these guys to say, hey, let's just go ahead and get the fight made at the deal that's being offered, because of the simple fact that Canelo Álvarez is saying, hey, I'm showing interest in Triple G in a trilogy. That could just be a bluff to get Danny Jacobs and Eddie Hearn to get the deal done sooner, because as we've already heard, according to multiple sources and even Eddie Hearn himself, is that these guys started negotiations a while ago. So that lets you know that these guys have already started negotiations negotiations, and that's why Oscar De La Hoya is not willing to commit to any particular fighter, because he needs to maintain leverage in the negotiation. So don't be surprised if Golden Boy Oscar De La Hoya backtrack from this and Canelo Alvarez ends up fighting Danny Jacobs. I still think that that's a possibility, because I think if you look at the keywords and the information that's coming out, is they stated that preliminary talks are happening for a potential fight. They didn't say that these guys are officially picking Gennady Golovkin. It's just the start of preliminary talks. And so that could also mean that Danny Jacobs, this is just to turn the fire up for these guys to hurry, get the deal done, and get these guys ready to start their training camps. So that's what I'm thinking. More than likely, that's what's going on here, that these guys could possibly be using this as a negotiation tactic. But if it's not, and we have a Canelo versus Triple G trilogy, I think it'll be ultimately a good fight, but I don't see any other outcome than Saul Canelo Álvarez. Once again, unbiased as always, it's the Ibfp. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.